Hello folks! Welcome to another video with me, Stephanie Canada, the owner of Backroom Finds. I'm passionate about vintage, sewing, and not taking myself too seriously. If that sounds like a gas to you, go ahead and click that subscribe button, because I upload every Tuesday and Friday. In today's video, we are going to be continuing my vintage sewing pattern tour, this time stopping off at 1940 through 1945. Now, I had to split up this decade because there are just so many good ones. I have previously done the 1930s, so if you'd like to go check that out, I'm going to put it down in the description box below for you. Two things to note, folks. First up is that I'm going to be primarily focusing on the patterns and fashions that are in the United States, because I know a lot of the other regions were differently affected by the general upheaval that was the time frame. Second off, I am going to also mainly be looking at women's fashions and patterns. I'm going to toss in a few men's and kids for funsies, but I'm not going to have a whole lot of those. So if you are interested in seeing another video about that, let me know down in the comments below. I can do another one of these. The fashions of 1940 through 1945 were primarily defined by World War II. While the United States didn't officially enter the war until after the attack on Pearl Harbor on December 7th, 1941, you could see the beginnings of this trend starting from the beginning of the era, as that's when the war had started over in Europe. One of the biggest factors to impact everyday life was rationing. And no, I'm not talking about hand sanitizer or toilet paper. From food to metal to the fabric you made your clothes out of, everything was rationed. I do delve into this topic a little bit as well in my History of Feed Sacks video, which I will pop into the card above and link down below in the description box for you. From the Smithsonian's National Museum of American History's website, Regulation L85, issued by War Production Board in 1942, rationed natural fibers and forbade drastic style changes that might tempt buyers. It limited color choices and restricted the length of skirts and the fullness of pants and jackets. Even cuffs were banned. This was all made very clear by the patterns of the time. Lengths of dresses could be no longer than 43 inches overall, one or no pockets, not the pockets, say it ain't so, no collars or cuffs, and a reduced sweep, which is the bottom length of your skirt around the edge. You also saw the influence of the workplace coming into patterns, making more patterns available with pants and overalls. Thanks, Rosie the Riveter! Great job! You even had books like Makin' Men for Victory, which is a book that would show you how to take men's clothes and turn them into women's and children's clothes, as well as using tiny scraps of fabric and making fun jabots and collars and cuffs out of absolute scraps to go with your dresses that allowed them to be used for a longer time. And now that we've taken a brief journey through time, let's grab our coffees and go look at some patterns. Welcome back to my downstairs office and my sewing pattern cabinet that can best be described as the hours I spent waiting on my mother in the sewing pattern aisle in the 90s. Rest in peace, Hancock fabric. Now, like I said, we are here going through 1940 through 1945, and to say I have a small stack for you is an understatement. I promise I did try and pare it down, but it just didn't go terribly well because I kept finding awesome ones I wanted to show you. Whoops. So the best way we're going to do this, as opposed to last time, is this time we are going to go in alphabetical order according to company name. And then I will try to do my best as we go through to go in chronological order inside that genre. Yeah. So first up, we have got advance number 2729. Now this one is going to be a one-piece dress that does have a zip front and a very large collar. The nice thing about this one is it is a bust 38. The downside to this one is there's no instructions, and I haven't found anyone else that can PDF me a copy of them. So if you have a copy of these instructions, please send them my way because, yeah, that would be useful. The interesting thing about this dress is that it is actually called on the front a princess dress. Now for those of us in 2020 and beyond, this is not really what we think of when we think of princess dress. To think that that was their design of a princess line dress, but instead they just jumped straight to princess dress, whereas nowadays we think of those little floofy things we put our kids in. It's just really interesting to see how times have changed. Also an Ann Adams pattern is going to be Ann Adams 4776, which is going to be of the earlier 40s because it does have the really interesting yoke detail and gathering throughout the bust and along the hip yoke as well to match it. Now Ann Adams and Marian Martin's did come in these wax envelopes. You would see these in some other mail order patterns as well, but primarily these were found in Ann Adams and Marian Martin. But I do enjoy when you do find the wax envelopes because then it helps you tell which company it's from a lot faster than attempting to find it in the instructions. Now we're going to see Ann Adams number 4504, and this was a staple of anyone who wanted to keep their clothing nice. Utilitarian apron. These ones aren't quite patch pockets because they do fall in line with the seams of the apron, but they do look like they would hold a lot of stuff, and that's always good. This one has a connector button at the center back as well as ties around the waist. Ooh, pattern avalanche. And as last time, folks, all of these lovely patterns are available on my website for purchase, so if you see any that you like, please feel free to come on over to backroomfinds.com. They're there waiting for you. And so many more. Next up on our train is going to be Butterick 2997. It's another one-piece dress. You're going to see that as a theme. This one actually has a cute little gathered neckline, as well as gatherings around the front waist, along with little pockets. I like the banded waistband on this one with just a slight gather on the top of that waistband to sort of help with the ease of the bust. An interesting line about this one is it actually has little drawstrings in the sleeves, so if you wanted to leave the sleeves a little longer, you could, but you can also ruche them up and make them look a little jauntier. Now moving on to a company that we don't see a whole lot of, especially after the 40s, that's because they went out of business, is going to be Dubarry. Dubarry is a pattern company that I do truly enjoy. However, they're quite hard to find because they are very rare, and when you do find them, normally they're not in this good a shape because they got used a whole lot. Now, I love this jacket for many reasons. Not because it's a bust size 32. Sorry, y'all. I love it for the pocket details. I love it for the option to do a short mandarin collar, which is the stand-up collar right next to your neck, or to go collarless, which was a big feature as the war rationing came in, was to ex-nay the collar A. And on this one, you could either have patch pockets on the outside or you could do welt pockets, which would just tuck in nicely on the sides. Another company that sadly didn't make it much farther than the 50s, this one is going to be Hollywood Patterns. Now, I've never actually made a Hollywood pattern, but oh man, they are just eye candy. Now for this one, you do see that Miss Betty Grable is on the envelope there, and they would use the Hollywood stars to help promote the patterns because they would be using something similar from a movie that they were in. Normally it has the name and what movie you would have seen this dress in. But on this one, it's just Betty Grable with 20th Century Fox. I'm guessing because you probably couldn't get Betty to be in this dress. But that's just me pontificating. Another thing you see from Hollywood is going to be the star patterns. These ones you know were made around the time of the war. This one specifically really has that utility look. And this one does fall within the lines because it does not look like the entire garment is longer than 43 inches, which is what they were requiring at the time. Now to go along with the utility factor, you have got a general mail order, right? Oh no. You can see mail orders in a variety of styles. It could be under a company, i.e. Ann Adams, Marian Martin, sometimes American Weekly as you would get into the 50s, or sometimes you could just get them from your local newspaper. This one's from Montana Farmer. And the description actually states, cut on uniform lines, a tailor dress for wives, workers, and teachers. Which means that anything you were going to make from this garment was going to fit within the War Production Board's standards, as well as be able to be used in the workplace and at home. So allowing the dress to do double duty, but with only one garment. And now we move into one of my favorite mail order companies, Marian Martin. Why is it my favorite, you ask? Because I have so many delicious catalogs from them, and I just like to drool. They're so pretty. Look at them. They're so good. And now we see Marian Martin 9002. I love this one. The gathering around the shoulder yokes, the slightly puffed sleeve, and the little tie belt, it just embodies everything of what I think of before World War II hit here in America. Now this one is going to be pattern 9093 from Marian Martin. What I find interesting about this one is while it is a standard one-piece dress, button up, nothing too exciting until you turn sideways and have that little diamond shape as a cutout. Not a cutout, as an insert for a spice to the dress. And this one had short sleeves and collar. And here's one of those cute little kid ones that I promised you. This is Marian Martin 9530. It is a child size 8, which depending on your child nowadays, the vintage patterns aren't too far off. You just have to normally account for length because any dresses that you were going to find, or shorts, were always going to be much shorter than current day fashions because of the standard use of bloomers and tights, or just being summer and not having air conditioning and trying not to overheat your poor small child. This one's really cute. It does have a little diagonal cut down and it has a nice little heart pocket right up top for rocks and snacks. Right? That's what kids carry. That's what mine carries around. It's normal, right? Now I don't get too many into McCall's because, well, it's just a little too easy. They have been printing the dates their patterns were printed, I believe, from the early mid-teens, somewhere in there. So I know for a fact this one was copyrighted in 1942. Now, could it have been pre-printed and reprinted after that? Absolutely. But my personal copy that I have is from 1942, and it is number 4902. This is really what we start to think of as a proper shirtwaist because it buttons only from the waist up and the rest is going to be skirt. So you'd have to step in or slide over it and then button the top half, as opposed to buttoning the entire dress. And I just love the fact that you have the option of the tiny little bow at your neck. And again, into the utility town, we've got another not-so-known brand. This is going to be called Superior Patterns. It is number 6300, and it is definitely what you would call... It is definitely what you call utilitarian. No frills, but what I find interesting about this one is that the peplum is also your pocket, which is kind of cool. It was a nice sneaky little workaround to that no pocket shenanigans or one pocket shenanigan. So I enjoy that. I also enjoy that this is a bust 38. Huzzah! And no 1940s pattern tour could be complete without showing you some of the glorious things that are Vogue. Now, I didn't just put this up here for giggles. This is actually, yeah, the front cover's loose. This is actually my 1942 Vogue Home pattern catalog. I have seen the glorious ones that are apparently hardbound, and I don't have one of those because those things are expensivo. Expensive. They're very expensive. So the interesting thing about the Vogue pattern catalog is that it not only provided the coming fashions, but it would also provide what they call color strategy and a free glove pattern. Yay! Because that's what we all need, are more gloves that we don't wear. Now, close but not quite, I do have one very glorious Vogue Couturier design pattern from 1943. Now, did I get to have the glorious nerd moment where it was in my magazine? Sadly, no. But I came real close. So my pattern catalog is from April-May 1943, and this one right here, number 339, is from November 1943. A dear friend of mine, the owner of Vintage Sewing Pattern Galleria, is oh so nicely donating me these images so that you can see that where my pattern is versus the catalog shot. This one has the high neckline with the slight slit at the neck. It does have the high darting, and it has an accompanying darting notch situation at the very bottom that leads into the skirt. And this was indeed a one-piece dress. Alright folks, I hope you enjoyed this journey with me today. If you did, go ahead and click that like button. And if you want to see more from me, go ahead and click that subscribe button. Turn on post notifications, and so that way you can be notified every Tuesday and Friday for when I post. Thanks so much for watching, y'all. See y'all next time. Two things to note for this video. The first is going to be that I'm going to be focusing on the patterns and fashions of the United States. Now, one of the biggest... I do delve into this in my From food to metal to the fabric you made your clothes out of. Everything was wrapped. Washened? He's a wily rabbit.
Wascally Wabbits?
Wascally Wabbits, that's what it is. From food to metal to the clothes you made your clothes out of. That's good.
The clothes that made their clothes out of.
Absolutely. Oh, that's not even close to what I wrote, but it's fine. That time when you write a script, and then you barely read the words off of it. This, friends, is why I was never an actor.
Genre the word you're looking for?
No, it is not. Oh, shit. Trying not to